Let's return the attention to this week's chat. Our guest this week is the legendary, experimental, vocal range defying, and genuinely lovely Mike Patton. Mike's list of projects is so vast and jaw-dropping that I kind of hesitate to even begin to list it. Though, of course, you may know him from, though I will try, because you may know him from Faith No More, Mr. Bungle. We can't forget other acts like Fantomas, Tomahawk, Dillinger Escape Plan, Painkiller, am I forgetting anything? The Nevermen, and a whole bunch of projects that leap from metal to jazz with stops everywhere in between.
Just this past week, speaking of somewhere in between, Mike released a brand new record called Corpse Flower, which is a collaboration with French composer Jean-Claude Vannier, who is best known for his work with the legendary Serge Gainsbourg. Mike's been called one of the greatest vocalists of all time, and for good measure, I would say. Mm-hmm. He's got perhaps the widest vocal range in rock history and is so incredibly expressive and emotionally evocative, so much so that he's also worked in voiceover, which is fascinating,
yes.
Contributing the monstrous sounds to 2007's Will Smith film I Am Legend, as well as the zombie noises in the iconic video game series Left 4 Dead, among other roles.
So he has kind of this enigmatic mystery to him. So as expected, I was incredibly fascinated the entire time. And Mike is kind of mischievous. Is that the right word?
I think so.
I mean, he's been doing this for a long time, but we love this record. So go out and buy Corpse Flower. It really is everything as Adam described. And this chat shows that breadth and that depth of his career perfectly, I think. We got to chat about his first meeting Faith No More at a gig at a pizzeria, the inspiration of Serge and Tom Waits on this brand new album, and the importance of experimentation and the power of being just yourself. So let us not be delayed. This is me and Mike Patton. Enjoy! That's so funny. She was like, he switched from his cell phone to his landline, and I swear to God, I've never heard such beautiful romantic words before, because like I know that the landline will be so much clearer, and I'm just so happy.
Hell yeah.
Wait, just say that again.
I said, hell yeah.
Fuck, what year is it? I feel like a fucking idiot for like liking the fact that we're talking on landlines. But you know,
it's all good. No,
you got to make it happen.
The only reason that I switched to the landline, to be honest, my goddamn cell phone battery is about to die.
What do you wish somebody told you about performance or the music industry before you got into it all? Is there something that you feel like you wish you knew at the time?
No, nothing. Because if they would have told me, I wouldn't have listened. Because when I started doing it, I was 19 years old. So when you're 19, I don't know about you, but I wasn't listening to anybody.
No.
So I just wanted to experience my own thing. And I really started kind of really, green behind the ears, and I didn't know shit. I'd never traveled outside the country. I'd never done nothing. So really, I think that even if people would have given me advice, it would have been fallen on deaf ears.
Yeah.
I had to kind of do it myself and figure out, hey, what worked for me, over that period of time, and that was 40 something years ago. 30, I'm 51 now, 1951, so you do the math.
Yes.
It was a while ago.
Yeah. But also it's such a funny age, I suppose, because you are kind of thrust outside, you're like into things that you might not have been into, but you still have, your 20s to go through and make mistakes, and then your 30s to kind of do the same thing. So obviously 19 is kind of a sweet spot where you can fuck up and you can do a bunch of things that might not matter, or things, that affect you for the rest of your life. But why was there a reason why you waited until then? When did you find it all? When did you realize that, oh shit, this is exactly what I wanted to do?
I don't know if I'm even there yet.
Oh, I love that. Right.
I'm not kidding when I say that. Basically, I happened upon this, if you want to call it a career or lifestyle or whatever. I didn't. Most musicians, say, "Oh, I always wanted to dream of going on tour," and I didn't grow up a musician, and I didn't grow up wanting to be one. It just fucking happened, and it was a series of accidents, and then at a certain point, I did sort of realize, hey, I'm okay at this, and maybe I should, give it a shot, keep going. But really, all I thought about it, as the context that I put it in was like, this is just something that I'm going to do for fun.
Right.
And I always, in the back of my mind, was like, okay, this is going to dry up someday, and I'm going to have to get a real fucking job, and knock on fucking wood, it hasn't happened yet. But that who knows? It could all change tomorrow. So I'm super grateful, super thankful, and more than anything, I'm really lucky to be doing what I'm doing and for having done it, for so long.
But then, so I read somewhere, and I don't know if this is right because I kind of don't believe anything. I read almost some of the things.
That's the way to be.
Even though I am a journalist and I write, and I hope people believe what I say. But you first, this is what I read, that you first met Faith No More at a pizza parlor. And that was also like a music venue.
Yeah.
As well.
Well, not really. God. It was a pizza parlor.
Okay.
It was a pizza parlor. Yeah.
So, did you play
they did
music?
gigs there. Like, it was on campus where I was going to school.
Okay.
They didn't really have a venue, so bands would play in the pizza parlor.
I mean, I love those weird venue spaces that just kind of pop up that are combined with other businesses. Is that what are the different places that you feel like you remember playing? The ones that weren't essentially made for music, but you landed up playing them anyway?
Plenty. Army bases,
oh my God.
Strip clubs. I remember Faith No More opening. The first time I ever went to Austin, Texas, I was so excited. I'm like, Austin, this is supposed to be this really crazy place. And we opened for male strippers.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
Wait, a band can open for strippers?
Yeah, apparently they can.
Did you get some of those bills?
It was very Spinal Tap.
Yeah. I was just going to say, this sounds suspect. Oh my God. Yeah. But do you...
No, it's true.
Over the years, do you remember what was the first concert? Was your first show when you were 19? Do you remember the first performance that you ever had?
It was probably Mr. Bungle at like a high school talent show.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Do you remember it at all?
Yeah. No.
Oh.
I mean, I remember it was awful, but that's all I remember.
And the first show that you ever saw?
That's a tougher one. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm gonna just make a wild guess here, and I think it was Eddie Money at like the local sort of like Grange Hall, like in the small town that I grew up in.
Where did you grow up?
A place called Eureka, California.
Okay.
Way up in Humboldt County, like where the weed grows.
Are you still in California now?
Yes, but I'm in San Francisco.
Oh, wow. What made you move there?
Well, it was the closest city that I could get to.
Oh. That's a good answer, my man. But you
really?
mentioned Mr. Bungle, and that's just so fascinating. You were so quick to adapt from, metal to incorporate so many different sounds and influences. But then what were you... I cringe to ask this, but I think it's fascinating. And I'm sure the listeners would find it as well. But what were you listening to at the time? Like, what was your relationship to genre like at the time? Or were you just gung-ho in experimenting?
I guess the best way I could put it is I worked in a record store at the time. and it was the only record store in town.
Yeah.
I'd worked there for a number of years and kind of built up a little bit of trust, and so they let me order records. So I started ordering the craziest shit, just not because I thought it would sell, because I wanted to hear it.
Yeah.
So it would be like dub stuff, hardcore stuff, crazy avant-garde jazz stuff, things that I was just like, hey, I'm not going to sell this shit, but I'm going to listen to it. So what I would do is I would get these records, and they'd come in like every Tuesday, I believe it was. And so I'd open up the box, take out the ones I wanted, take them home, tape them, bring them back, and seal them up, and then try and sell them.
Oh, my God.
Really bad. Like, I'm the worst employee. Yeah. So bad.
So somebody to be honest, can you imagine somebody listening to this and they're like, shit, I might own a record that Mike touched. You know?
I don't know if that really would matter. Because no one would buy the ones that I touched, believe me.
Yeah. That's very sneaky. But look, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. You just had this thirst to listen to new music. I think that's
when you're a curious,
kind of
when you're a curious teenager, man, that's the way to do it. So what I would do is I'd share all those tapes with my buddies and stuff, especially at that time, the Mr. Bungle guys, and I'd be like, hey man, check out this guy. He's like a reggae guy. It's just weird shit, or whatever. So we would have we'd hook up, and I'd play them tapes of shit that I basically ripped off.
Oh my God, you're like the IRL Napster.
Yeah,
like
not good.
Not good.
Not good.
No, to kids, not good. But I love that, obviously talking about, I'm sure a lot of people mention this when they speak to you, but, not only are your influences just, you've built such an incredible esoteric universe of so many different projects. But then going back to Mr. Bungle, that was also known for its performances, the costumes, the masks, the themes, the theatrics of it. So where did that idea come from? How did you mix your love for all these different genres and your curiosity for it with also I'm going to put on the show and I have this aesthetic for it?
I think the reason we started doing that was very early on because we were uncomfortable. We were nervous. So it's like, hey, let's wear, in the old days, we'd wear it's hard to explain, but these bread bags over our heads. And then that kind of came later into masks. And I think it's more so just because we were geeks and kind of nervous. And when you're hiding behind something, it makes you feel maybe a little more secure about what you're doing.
Sure.
At least then it did, yeah.
And also having that persona on stage, that you're going to connect on a different level where people will maybe also notice the costumes, but also, you don't have to worry. You can just play the music as opposed to being a little bit self-conscious, about being
or going
on stage.
looking somebody in the eye and, going, hey, do you like this? Nah, fuck that. It was more like,
but wait, but you got
hey, man,
that.
we're going to go for this.
Yeah.
We're going to go for this. And if you don't like it, then, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. But then, so you got like that. I mean, your performances the other day when I found out that we were chatting, I was like, I'm going to look around and see what's on the internet. And there's so much shit of you on the internet. I think the best one, one of the ones that I saw was you climbing some crane with the microphone. You had two hands climbing the crane and then you had a microphone in your mouth. I suppose that
might have been me. I'm not sure. I cannot confirm or deny.
Oh, you. But so talking about getting comfy, this might sound like a trivial question, but then what did you do to make sure that you were okay?
Well, years of doing it and realizing that, man, you know what? As long as you do it well and you feel good when you walk off that stage, then that's enough. And really just kind of putting it in perspective. It's like, this is not live or die situation. Hey, you have a bad show, you have a bad show. Or you want to go even deeper. People like you or they don't like you, not the end of the world. Because that's always going to happen. And especially if you're doing something that might be, let's just say, a little challenging, musically. And pretty much most of the bands I've been in have kind of been pushing in that direction, meaning it's not exactly the most likable stuff.
I mean,
it's not pop music.
It's not
Barbra Streisand.
accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I love Barbara. But yeah, no, you're right. but you're right, because even just looking, there's very few people, I suppose, that there's not many people like you, but there's very few people that would do that, would have multiple projects, between Tomahawk and Moonchild Trio, and there's so much that you've worked on that I suppose isn't.
Yeah, but people do that all the time now. Back then, then it was sort of, it was a little different, and it was actually a little bit frowned upon. You were supposed to be in one band,
right,
and
have one sound,
and and if you played in multiple bands, then you were an adulterer, and you were cheating on your main band. And I got a lot of heat from that, from a lot of different sources. But I just kept doing it. But nowadays, hey man, everybody has multiple projects, and it's, maybe it's considered more of a hustle now, but to me, it was just always kind of a normal way of making music.
Was it just because your brain, because obviously that cross-pollination now with genres, you're totally right, a lot of people do that, but was it just because there was different parts of your brain, just like you mentioned at the record store, that was like, oh, I need to see what I can do with this? Like, how far did your exploration for that go?
Well, to me, it was like learning. And me, I'm not a studied musician. I didn't go to school for it. I don't read music. I'm pretty much self-taught, but really the way that I figured out, the only way that I could figure out to really learn was by doing.
Pause the podcast.
Pause the podcast.
Are you looking at a calendar full of great events but struggling to find tickets? StubHub's got you. Whatever your favorite band, team, or venue, StubHub is here to save the day with the best tickets for any budget.
Whether you're looking for a seat at a Broadway show, tickets to the summer's big arena tour, or a night of cheering on your hometown team, StubHub has the seats you're looking for at the price you want to pay.
Head to cosradio.lv/StubHub or their user-friendly app to find tickets that are 100% guaranteed by Fan Protect. StubHub's never sold out, with the most shows, the most tickets, and the most fans.
So, head on over to cosradio.lv/StubHub or the StubHub app. The best tickets to the best experiences in music, sports, and theater.
That's cosradio.lv/StubHub.
So it was like on-the-job training, and it was trial by fire. And so being in a band with like maybe a saxophone player and, and out of my element was exciting. And because I knew that even if it sucked, I would learn something and take something away, from that, and maybe be able to put it in my pocket and continue on with it. And I still do that. I really do. It's a very craftsman's way of dealing with music, as opposed to an artistic way.
Right, but it's also really fucking scary. There's so many people.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
Not that scary.
No, not in terms of like it will paralyze a person and they won't do anything. It's just so challenging. And as you said, a lot of people do that now, but back in the day, people didn't really challenge themselves like that because they obviously didn't think that they could, or maybe they just knew that they would get too much of a backlash. I don't know. Just how did you get so brave? How did you continue to do it?
And to me, it didn't seem brave. It was just normal.
Yeah, it was just what you were doing.
I guess the best way I could put it is the way that I listened to music is the way that I played it. Meaning, put some iPod on shuffle or drop a needle on this record and then put the next one on. And it could be, an Egyptian singer or a fucking rapper or a tenor saxophonist.
Right.
And they could all come in succession. I listen to music like that. I still do. In that way. You know what I mean? Like the shuffle mentality.
Right.
And so that's also the way that I kind of ended up making music. Was sort of like that. Yeah.
Also, you mentioned earlier that you haven't obviously had any classical training. You don't read music, but you have, again, one of the most iconic ranges in rock music. I'm sure you've heard that many times. But I think it's not only in terms of notes, but it's just extreme ranges of sound. To the point that obviously you've had the chance to work as a voice actor in movies and video games, and so much further than a normal singer might have been able to accomplish. But then how are you able then to push your mindset into all those different avenues and make sure that you were still yourself?
Well, being yourself is the easiest thing in the world to do. It really is.
That is true.
If you think about it.
That is true.
But I think what kept pushing me, in some ways, to keep going and to try different things was just curiosity, like thirst. Like I said, I think that started from an early age. I grew up in a small town where there was really kind of like nothing, and so it developed. With me and also all the guys in Mr. Bungle, this weird like thirst, this taste. What's next? What's out there? Like this weird curiosity. After a while, the thirst turns into an appetite, and then all of a sudden you're overeating. You're stuffing your gut.
Yeah.
And you learn what works, and you shit out the rest.
Yeah.
And I just think the more information. For me, musically, and I don't know, in life, the better.
I agree. And now, obviously, going from that to your new album, Corpse Flower, with Jean-Claude, and I got to listen to it, which I was very pleasantly, I just had such a wonderful time listening to it. I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't want to read anything about it before I listened, because that always weirdly sticks into my brain.
You're a journalist and you know.
But what then drew you to the, French language or that way of making, that style of making music? Obviously you're not singing in French exclusively, but I'm sure that you consumed a fair amount while, doing the project. And how prepared were you before you went into that collaboration?
It was like a long gestating kind of thing that started really as a friendship with Jean-Claude. We'd worked together. We worked together on a Gainsbourg thing, 9 years ago.
Oh wow! Okay.
In L.A. Yeah, and we became friends after that, and we talked about, hey, maybe someday we should do something. And like that's sort of like my MO.
Yeah.
It's like when I have a spark, I'll just like throw something out there, and then see if someone's responsive to it. And he was. It took a while, obviously, some years to figure out the path we were going to take. But it ended up being, he sent me a lot of the music that he had written, and then I sort of adapted his lyrics from French into English and contributed some of my own stuff. And, it became just, I don't know. It felt natural. It took a while, but it felt natural.
But you could feel, and you can feel that when you listen. I mean, just like you're growling on some of the songs and that rumble, like especially on, Browning. It kind of feels akin to obviously Tom Waits and his like Tin Pan Alley explorations. And Waits always feels like a kind of spiritual connection in terms of like experimentation as a vocalist. But are there any vocalists maybe that you have felt really, I don't want to say inspired, because I can already tell you are probably constantly inspired, but is there anyone that just totally blew you away that you thought there's so much more happening than just singing?
Leonard Cohen.
Oh, amazing. Well, the first track kind of feels like that too.
Yeah.
Feels Leonard Cohen-y.
the way that he recites and the way that he can make something spoken sound sung. Like, that's a really delicate, crazy, weird talent. And so yeah, I was really into him. Waits, of course. And Serge Gainsbourg, man. Like, no one talks about him as a vocalist. They always talk about him as a, you know, like a whatever, a playboy and a pervert.
Yeah, they were.
You know?
Yeah.
But dude, he had an insane voice and a really keen, I think, ear for where to place the voice, how to place it, and I think he was really an incredible.
I agree.
Musician, top to bottom.
It's because those songs are so ingrained in us. I think you forget that there's this person behind it, or actually, you probably remember too much. You know, whatever was in the tabloids.
Yeah, exactly.
This person.
But no one talks about the actual musical part of it. All I want to talk about is the sexy shit.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, it's kind of like Sinatra in a way. Like everyone wants to talk about, oh, he was a gangster and la ha ha, you know, Las Vegas and mafia and blah blah blah. Check it out, man. I've got some outtakes that Sinatra did. There's a whole series of them. They're bootlegs, they're illegal, but
you and
but
this
I have
illegal
them.
shit.
But I have them, and I'm telling you, what they are recordings of him in the studio, right? And he's doing a take, and he'll stop, and he's doing it. This is like back in the old days, so he's here with a whole brass orchestra, strings, the whole nine. And he'll stop and go, "Hey, that third trombone, man, that's a little flat."
Wow.
And that's when you realize this fucker, this guy, okay, he wasn't just sitting there with a martini, you know, trying to get through it. He was hearing it. Like, he actually heard the music and was very tuned in, and an incredible interpreter and musician. So yeah, I think Serge was the same way.
Do you feel like you relate in a way? Because I feel like you did a lot of interviews and you were quite public when, you know, at least when I was growing up, when you were, you know, in the different bands and things like that. And there was so much in the tabloids. But do you feel like now you...
I was in the tabloids?
Well, not tabloids, but you were like...
Get the fuck out of here.
You were like you were more the person who's like riling things up. You know, you spoke your mind. You were very honest.
Well, okay. Yeah, okay, guilty. Yeah, maybe.
Come on, listen.
I don't know.
No, I'm not going to tell you. But basically, I think that you were very honest. And I also think that the performances were honest. So people naturally gravitated toward you. You weren't like this bullshit artist that was listening to everybody else. But do you relate in terms of keeping your private life quite private and making sure that people are only talking about the music? Is that something that you consider?
Yeah, I am. I'm a little guarded.
Yeah.
You know? And I learned that from an early age.
Yeah.
It's just because, you know, you learn that kind of stuff the hard way. You sort of realize, hey, man, I'm already giving, you know, 1,000% to the music, and then, you know, to the press, you kind of gotta there's an art to it. There really is. And I hope I've gotten a little bit better at that, because there was a while where I was a total asshole, you know, and I didn't say anything, and all I would do is give you sarcastic answer.
Yeah.
And like, and spread out crazy lies and rumors just because it was funny.
I mean, it kind of was funny, but yes, it's kind of funny, but yeah, no,
But like nowadays, I don't even mess with that. It's like, why bother?
Well, you can't, I suppose. Now it can get, you know, diluted in 1,000 million pieces. You know, back then there was kind of a straight line. It was kind of more linear. But now with so many different channels and so many different people who have access, it could just get torn apart. And then you really...
I mean, I don't even care about that. I just feel, you know, my explanation is
What is your explanation? Give me a...
I just grew up and I realized what's important and what's not. And really fucking with the press and being a dick is not really worth it.
Yeah.
It's much easier to just be... What did I say to you before? the easiest thing in the world is just to be yourself.
Yeah, and I appreciate that also because I think that again, you are so beloved for the different projects that you've done that, to be honest, a press really is just trying to get your story out. So, but I don't blame you, to be honest. There's some terrible journalists out there, so I don't blame you, honestly. But then I
think you're pretty good at it, so you're doing fine.
Hey, thank you. This is going to sound weird, but what atmosphere do you feel like you need on stage? Especially going into now you releasing this new album. I'm not sure if you're going to tour it or what you have planned for. But when you get on stage, what atmosphere do you need in order to feel really comfy and, like you can thrive?
With this record? You want a goofy answer or like honest?
I'm going to go for honest, always.
Okay. Any atmosphere. I think that a project like this is going to be so hard to bring to the stage.
That's what I was thinking.
That we'll play fucking anywhere. We'll play in Panama. We'll go to, you tell me where.
South Africa.
We'll go to Iceland.
Go back home to my hometown, South Africa.
Yes, I would love to go there. I've never been there. I really want to go there.
Wait, you've never been there?
Nope, never been.
In all your years of traveling?
Nope.
I know we're at the end of our interview, but honestly, if you need tips, and it's fucking beautiful, and you talk about like South African music and artists from there.
Oh my God.
If you're interested in jazz.
Tell me about it. Yep.
Dude, if you're interested in jazz, Spook Matambo, don't know if you've ever heard of him. He is
I have,
something else.
And like even some of the more kind of, let's just say, grimier stuff,
right?
Like Burna Boy,
Totally, it's insane.
It's good though. It's good.
So good. It like does something to your brain. It's like a drug. It like literally like licks your brain. It's so good. Oh my gosh, you should definitely go. You should definitely go.
I need to. I know,
because you live in nice San Francisco. At least it's similar to Cape Town.
Actually, yeah. And we got sharks here too.
Oh fuck. Oh, yeah, I can't even laugh about that. I can't even laugh about the sharks. This Must Be the Gig is produced by Adam Kibble, and we'd like to thank Billy Yost and The Kickback for our theme song, Rube, and buy their music at thekickbackband.com. Daniel Brater and Dean Berger for the additional sound design, and the Consequence Podcast Network, where you'll find a bunch of other amazing shows.